Hello and welcome back to the Lich Please podcast. As always, I'm here with Alex,
Hello.
and today we have a very special guest. Gabe Greenspan is going to be joining us. We're going to be just chatting D&D again, as we always do every week. Uh, so yeah, we'll go straight into the very basic question. First of all, what was your introduction to D&D? First edition, how did you get into it?
Hey, so man, I hit D&D real late in the game, I think. I didn't start playing D&D until uh basically until the pandemic happened.
Oh,
Um
wow.
yeah, I
Yeah.
my buddy George Primavera, who's the DM for the Hero Club podcast. If you've never heard of those guys, they're awesome. They do um they basically do like D&D stories but set in non-fantasy settings. So like their first season was like a noir detective story in
Oh,
like
that's really
New
cool.
York. It was really cool. And then they did like a Wild West season. So they've been doing that kind of stuff. Very, very cool, like non D&D D&D. And so he had brought me and my friend onto the podcast to do like he's really cool about like if there's an NPC that he's like, I don't need to voice every single character. People I can only have so many voices, right? So he was like, if there's an NPC that the party needs information from, I'll bring in friends, tell them the relevant information that the party will need, and let them improv beyond that. And I was like, well, that's awesome. So I like
That's a really
found it
cool
because
idea.
I had done, yeah, it was great. And I had like done comedy stuff with the guys who were on the podcast. So we brought me and my writing partner on to be these two like gangster types who were like friends that they needed to meet in New York City with like a small piece of information. Um, we knew nothing about the game. We had no stats. We were like commoner stats. It was like, just take this dice and roll it if you want. But we'd done that like 2 or 3 times, and that was my full involvement with D&D. And then the pandemic hit, and George, who's the DM for that podcast, was like, I want to get better with the 5e rule set, because he had come from like 4e was sort of his starting edition. So he was like, I want to get better with the 5e rule set. I'm gonna run basically like a campaign world where anyone who wants to, he reached out to like 40 of us, I think. I was like, anyone who wants to, I'll help you roll up a character, I'll go over the rules with you, and then I'm gonna run a game every weekday for like as long as this thing goes. And at the end of the week, I'll put out like basically like a dossier of like, here's what happened in the world within this week of gameplay.
Oh
So
my
every
god, that's
storyline
insane.
would like
That's
connect
so
back.
cool.
It was madness. It was the most insane introduction to the game I've ever had. Like, what a
Yeah.
crazy way into it. Because we like built a Discord server, and it was like all of the characters who were playing, we would like have side conversations within the Discord in character to be like, here's the information that I have from the quest that I've been doing, and like here's the information that you have. And so it became this like full world beyond just when we were playing in real time. Um and it made me fall in love with the game completely. And I think like
Oh
part
yeah.
of that
That
was,
yeah.
yeah, first of all, an amazing endeavor to begin with,
That's
like an
Yeah.
yeah.
insane thing to
Yeah.
attempt. But it was like, because it was the pandemic and like my day job, so like I'm an actor and a writer and all that when I'm not doing this stuff, and all that was gone. It was like there was no
Yeah.
socializing, there was no creativity, there was no community, so to speak. And so D&D like checked every one of those boxes for me in this really beautiful way that made me just go, oh, this is going to be what I do for a while. Like, this is it, right? um and so that was my in. And then because George was running 5 games a week, and that was completely untenable, he started reaching out to people being like, does anyone want to DM like one of the days and just sort of like have your own basically like quest giver and side plots within this world? So I was like, hell yeah, why not? Let's try it. Read the full like DMG, like went so deep into it, and then started running a essentially like a battle royale side quest where I would like players would come in, I'd throw a huge monster at them, and then they'd get a big loot reward. And that was how I started DMing. And then I like found a group who wanted to play a real campaign. I was DMing that for a little while. And then another group who wanted to play. And so I've just since then I've sort of been playing and creating and going in and being in and out of being DM and player sort of since 2020.
Damn.
Damn.
Yeah.
That is insane. Yeah.
How
It
long
truly
between?
What was it?
Sorry, how long between the start of you playing and then the you picking up the battle royale? How long?
I mean, I think it can't have been more than like 2 months. Like it was
Yeah.
such a quick. I jumped in so hard. Well, and like
Yeah.
and it shows in that like a lot of the content that I make now is like I really like the mechanics of the game. I think it's so fun to be like within this rule set, how far can I push what is possible? You know, like how can I do not even the most damage, but like the craziest stuff and still technically be playing the same game as everyone else at the table. And so I started like looking at that, and what got me into that was I was DMing for like 15 people, and everyone was a different class. So I was like, I need to know how every class in the game works. I need to know the cleric spell list. I need to know the fighter's capabilities. I need to, and so I was like, okay, great. I'll learn as like all of it to the best of my abilities, so that when if in game one of these still relatively new players is like, can I action search with spells? I'm like, I need to know whether or not. I don't want to be like, give me 10 minutes. Let me like
Yeah.
let me get out my get books and see what happens. So I just like learned it. And it became like a real joyful thing.
Damn. That is, yeah, wow. That's a great start to D&D. Yeah.
It truly was a like crazy both feet in leaping into the game. And so much fun. Just so much fun.
Yeah. No, wow. Might be one of the most entertaining ones we've had of how people
Yeah.
started D&D.
I appreciate that. I owe it
definitely up
to
there.
my buddy George Primavera. Follow the stuff.
Damn.
He's great.
See, I thought you'd been playing D&D for a long time. Like straight up based off your TikTok content. I was like, you know so much about monster stat blocks. I was like, you have to have been playing for a long time.
Oh man, no,
yeah.
I just have an inconsistent job and a lot of free time, and I go, all right, I guess this is what I'm doing today is learning about dragons.
Fair enough. Yeah. Oh wow. So this may be early, but it seems as we have 3 segments, and I feel like we're just talking about monster stat blocks. We will use
straight into this.
We will straight into the segment.
Are we going straight into this? Oh god.
First segment of the day.
Great.
So for everyone listening, as you all know, we have 2 segments, but this is the third one we're putting in, which is Guess the Monster. To explain the rules, I'm going to read out some stats of a monster stat block, a few increments at a time, and Iwan and our guest today, Gabe, is going to try and guess what the monster is, and the first person to get the monster wins, and we will have a counter for Iwan versus guest over the series.
So I will say,
yeah.
before we jump into this, so like, yes, a lot of my stuff that I've done on TikTok is like pulling from monster stat blocks. I've been doing it for like months now, and I still am bad. It's not like I've been like, oh, I've nailed it. It's like, something will come up and I go, shut up. Was that Constitution good, or was it garbage? I remember the first video of like that series that I had that sort of like hit was I had like just had my wife and I had our son in October, and this was like 2 months into being new parents, and we were exhausted, and I like couldn't remember how to breathe, forget how monster stats worked, and I posted one where like a lich came up as the monster, and I straight up was like, I know they're a spellcaster. I can't for the life of me remember if they use charisma for their spellcasting stat or intelligence. And I mistakenly was like, I'll say their charisma's better, and I picked that, and it's intelligence because they're wizards. But the internet was like, go fuck yourself. They were just like, every single comment was like, you idiot, like, you never played this game. And I was like, "Hey,
Ugh.
great, cool. Bring on those comments by
Yeah.
all means.
I think I remember that video. I
Let
think I
this
remember
honest
watching that.
mistake be something that propels this series." It was very fun. So, anyways, all that to say, I'm very bad at this, and I expect you on
Yeah,
your end. Here we go.
I'm with you now, and I'm rolling through monsters I know, and I'm like, I can get kobold, goblin, dragon. Beyond that, I'm like, what else is there?
Yeah, real.
This is quite a common monster. I'll tell you that. It's common. It's
Okay.
used a lot. I think I could get this.
Oh,
Well, it's easy
ding?
to say I can get this.
Is there like a buzzer that we like ding ding?
You know what? Yeah, let's buzzer sounds.
Oh,
We could
God.
do some buzzer
Great.
sounds.
Great, perfect.
Yeah, Iwan, you're quite famous for your doorbell sound.
Oh no! Don't make me do it on the
So,
internet.
so you can do the doorbell sound, and Gabe, feel
Okay.
free to make any sound you want.
Perfect. Love it.
Cool. So I will start with the strength, dex, and con stats from the stat block, and I will also give you the armor class and speed as well. So the AC is 8. The speed is 20 feet.
Awooga.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the buzzer sound.
Who do you think it is?
I'm pretty positive that is a gelatinous cube.
Oh, no, it is not.
Oh.
Unlucky. Cool. Iwan, you get
Damn.
next guess after strength, dex, and con. So strength is 13, dex is 6, and con is 16. I can see the clogs working, and I can see them ticking in his head.
I'm a class of 8.
I know, it's so low, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of.
It's got to be an ooze. It's got to be something that just like has no armor.
You can pass up this guess, and then we can go straight to the next stats.
I'll pass up because I need some more than that.
Yeah.
Cool. Intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, and I will give you senses as well. So, intelligence is 3, wisdom is 6, and charisma is 5.
Jesus.
For senses, dark vision is 60 feet, and passive perception is 8. But yeah, you could figure that out from wisdom.
What was the strength, dex, and con again?
13 strength, 6 dex, and 16 con.
God, the dex is so low. Oh my god, this is killing me. Armor class of 8, 20 feet of movement is the other thing because that's slow. That's like a slow creature. Oh man. It's not a gelatinous cube. Ding.
Yeah, go on.
Is it a mimic?
No, it is not.
All right.
Ding dong.
Yes.
Wow. A renowned
I know. Genuinely, the Oscar's calling. Is it an ooze?
It's not an ooze. It's not. I will give you immunities, both damage and condition, languages, and I'll give you its actions. So.
Okay, so you're not giving us the creature type.
No creature type, and as no CR rating yet. None of the things where I'd be like, I think I can zero in.
Yeah.
The thing I would give you the creature type and CR ratings like first, but I feel like it would give it away so quickly.
Such a gimme.
Yeah. So, immunities, both damage and condition is poison and poisoned, and the action is slam. It's a +3 to hit, obviously a 5-foot reach. And it's 1d6 +1 of bludgeoning damage for this slam. And languages, it understands languages. It knew in life but can't speak.
No.
Ding dong.
Yes.
Slur tadpole.
No.
Damn.
It's not.
Ding dong.
Yes.
I think this is too strong for this, but is it a zombie?
It is a zombie. Yeah, it's a zombie.
I got it.
Yeah, it's a zombie.
Go.
That's why I refrained from telling you the
Of
the
course,
monster
because
type.
that's a
Yeah,
low AC and
Yeah.
it's slow because it's shambly. Oh
yeah.
man,
Yeah.
I thought the language would give it straight away because it says it knew in life but
it
can't
knew in
speak.
life is huge.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think after I thought about it, it made sense. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So
Damn, this is
oh
hard.
yeah,
No, this is
that was
tough.
rough.
yeah. That was definitely. I can see why all the ooze and like Genesis Cube and stuff came through because yeah, that is
It's
awful.
that like the slow speed and the low AC makes you go, this is something that like creeps a little bit,
Yeah.
right? But it's not, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought if I put like intelligence and wisdom, charisma first, people would guess like uh, animals or something like beasts.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
true.
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
probably would
wow,
have if it was all that long ago.
yeah. It's Yuan. You are losing
1-0.
currently. It's 1-0 to guess versus Yuan.
1-0.
In the
Um,
game,
yeah.
man.
Nice, strong start for not for Yuan, but for the guest side. Cool.
Yeah. When it's a solo episode, I'll get one.
Nice. So
Oh man.
right, moving on from Yuan's terrible loss.
Oh.
Um, I feel like we've got to ask, as someone who creates so many characters on TikTok, favorite class and favorite subclass.
God, what an incredibly difficult to answer question.
Yeah.
Oh geez. I think my favorite class to play in like a one shot or small campaign. My favorite class, if I don't need to go around buying and collecting like spell scrolls, is a wizard. Like if you can just
Yeah.
give me
Yeah.
all the spells that I need, I love wizards. The versatility of those classes are incredible. And like a scribes wizard, or a blade singer, so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. I think if I was like going a campaign all the way up from like 0 to 20, like if I was just playing a full campaign through, maybe a God, it's an impossible ask, right? I will say I generally prefer spellcasters to marshals. I started out playing a ranger and then I played a cleric, and I like loved doing spell casting. I think maybe either a cleric or a bard to play all the way through would be my
Nice.
go-tos. Um, and like a peace or a twilight cleric,
Yeah.
and like an eloquence bard I'm playing an eloquence bard in a campaign right now, and it's just nasty. The things that character can do that no one else I've ever played is able to do. Like he doesn't need magic to go into any room. He can just his like lowest persuasion check is like a 25 and we're level 6, you know? It's one of those insane classes
Yeah.
that is just stupid fun to play. Though I will say this is so much longer of an answer than this question merited.
No, it's
But
perfect.
I played my buddies have like a long many year campaign that I did a guest arc on. And I jumped in at level 15 and I played an illusionist wizard, School of Illusion wizard. And that they're like I think it's their 10th or 14th level feature, which is like any illusion you make, you can use an action and make some part of it real. That was the coolest ability I've like ever played in the game, because I would upcast like a simple illusion spell so that I didn't need to concentrate on it, and then just make stuff real. I like built a world out of illusion, and it was so dope, so much fun to play. But also requires like huge DM buy-in. Any illusion stuff is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you really got to be on board about that, but really fun.
I think
Nice.
you might be the first person we've had on to say their favorite type of character spellcaster.
Yeah,
Really?
I
Do
think
people
so.
tend to lean
Yeah,
marshals
I
on
think so.
Yeah.
Marshall will be getting a lot of love, but yeah,
Yeah.
Listen,
I mean,
there's nothing wrong with just hitting like
Yeah.
a truck. You know, like that is there's joy to that.
yeah.
But yeah, I like, for me it is every combat I feel like I approach it going, what is what is the thing the DM does not expect me to do in this combat, and can I do that? Like, how do I use the environment, or how do I use a spell to create something that shouldn't be in this area or something? And I just love that sort of like chess game element to combat that I think
Absolutely.
marshals get, but it's a lot harder to make that happen for them, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Because I love martials.
Yep.
Classes like a lot, but I like it a lot because I can think of more things I could do with my weapons. I know there's more
Yes.
Hell
spells,
yeah.
but like to
No,
my
yes,
head,
you
can.
yes. Like we just had a session like an hour and a half ago, as we were talking about before, and it was fun. It was great. We had an enemy. Our paladin had an enemy in a chokehold because we like kidnapped him from some people, so it wouldn't make sound. And I had the option of I was like talking to the paladin, and I said, "Can we rip him? Can we? If I pull his legs, you pull his head. Can we rip his head off?" That was one of my thoughts. And then when it came to my
Yeah.
turn, I saw a
That was one of them.
bookshelf, and I was like, "Ooh, this bookshelf. Can I climb up it, jump on the person with my shield, pointy part down, and just cleave into them
Just
like a
bisect them.
like a WWE
Yeah.
wrestler?" Yeah, I love it. That's why I choose martial. Plus,
See,
I've only
I'll
used
say
spell
if
classes about 3 times.
every person played a martial like you just described, I would be way more on board for martials all the time. All martials all the time. Like, that sounds so fun.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. The reason I do it as well is the first time I played as a monk, I just got bored of constantly saying, "I'm going to punch him," and "I'm going to punch him again." I wanted to do something else. I was just like, I want to do something else. Let's make it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I think the reason I mostly allow stuff like that as a DM is because it is so boring for me to sit there and then be like, "Oh, I want to hit him." I'm like, "Okay, how much damage? Okay, that much damage. Cool."
Yeah.
Like, if they get to do more with it, then it's more engaging for everyone, and including myself.
I know.
It's so much more
As
fun
someone
to deal with.
as someone who like generally is such a rules stickler, like I do like I maintain things like you can't do a leveled as spell action for a bonus action. Like, if you cast a bonus action spell, you have to do a cantrip kind of, like, I love all that stuff because I think it balances the game a little bit better.
Yeah,
But I also go like, rule of cool is number one. Like, if you're gonna have
absolutely.
someone do something that is so much beyond, like, I attack 17, does that hit 8 damage? Like, if you can do anything more than that, I'm like, yes, do it. 100% do it. I don't
Absolutely.
care what it does to the game.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's more fun. Yeah, definitely more fun.
It wasn't for me watching my bad guy just get decimated.
I loved it. The whole party loved it. It was great.
It was a great time. Everyone had a fun time, but
Yeah, well,
Oh, that's
you
great.
pulled him out and he had a 20 AC, tear grappled him, and then you were like, "Can I pull his armor off?" And I was like,
yeah,
"Give me a strength check."
Yeah, right.
You've got a nat 20, and I was like, "Well, yes."
yeah. No one was hitting
Beauty
him.
of the nat 20.
Yeah, no one was hitting him, so I made the executive decision that his armor had to come off, and I just ripped it off. I said, "Well, if you can't hit now, you can hit him now." So,
Perfect.
yeah,
Perfect.
it is great. It adds to chaos as well. The chaos in
Yeah.
games. Yeah.
But I think I had I don't actually mention this at the time, but I had a mental thing of, this is the Goblin's warlord. You have stripped him down. He's at 6 hit points. As he's running through their grove to try and get help, do the goblins just go, "Nah, fuck this guy," and kill him, and then
Right.
someone else becomes like in charge? But you never got to that point because you managed to take him down before he got there.
Yeah.
I do love that thing as a DM of like the contingencies that start running in your
Yeah.
brain, where it's like, okay, none of this went the way I thought this was going to go. What does that mean for the world? Like, how do I have
Yeah.
to, like, in the next 10 minutes figure out how the world has changed?
I love that feeling so much, though.
That's
It puts
great.
me on edge, and it's such a good, fun feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to be fair, even for that, the one shot I DM'd, I mean, I spent like 5 days thinking of encounters. They skipped all of them. They dodged everything. Yeah.
Oh my friend, the first time she ever DM'd, she gave us like essentially like a haunted house. It was like a Halloween one shot in a haunted house, and we as idiots were like, let's open every door at the same time, and she lost her mind. She was like, "You, how dare you do that?" How dare you bring every element of this together at the exact same moment, you monsters? And we're like, oh, whoops, sorry.
Yeah, for mine, it was a heist for some world building for the pirate campaign I'm writing, and
Nice.
I had got all the entrances with things that could fight them, but everyone split up and did all these amazing rolls to just deceive everything, and then they just got inside. I was like, okay, and then I told them all about the different forked paths. They went up like straight up to one without a combat encounter. Then someone did a really good perception check to smell the wine cellar, which is where next to where the heist was. They got to the wine cellar, saw the enemies that weren't hostile. They just walked past them. I thought the chaos in them would cause them to fight. They skipped past them, and then they went to the vault. There were traps waiting for them. They nearly forgot. Someone remembered. They saw the traps. They broke through the door and had one fight, and they got the loot, blew up the whole island, and just left. And I was like, okay,
gorgeous.
Yeah,
That's
like, okay, everything's gone.
I remember my DM in the last campaign that I played had put like it was like a key to a thing that we needed at the top of like a 100-foot tower. It was something crazy. I think it was a 100-foot tower, and it was like enemies on every level, guards at the door. I was playing a monk, so I, in one turn, step of the wind, ran all the way up the side of the tower, grabbed the thing, slowly fell off the side, and that was the entire time. She was just like, oh, that's all of it. That's everything. You skipped everything.
If I was playing a monk, I would have done the exact same thing. I'm not even gonna lie.
Dude, monks are fun to play. I love monks.
It's so good. Yeah, I do love playing with monks. Yeah.
It's the moment as a DM where you sit there and go, you're like, damn, I should have thought of that, and you're like, damn. Well,
I had one when I was DMing, and I know this sort of bleeds into like horror stories. This isn't as bad as it got, but I had one where I was DMing where I'd set up this encounter of like, it was low level play, but it was they were in like marshes and in like bogs, and I just had like a bunch of alligators, and the whole thing was going to be like giant crocodiles. They were going to like grapple, pull them under the water, and it was going to be all about like how do you avoid drowning, essentially. We got to that part, and it was like, well, one player is a water genasi who can breathe underwater. One player is a reborn warlock who doesn't need to breathe. It was just every single person was like, water's not a problem for me. And I was like, okay, well, great. There goes that whole thing, I guess. This is a very easy combat now.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. It seems as we're on the topic of great things that happen as a DM.
Yeah.
Favorite moment as a player, DM, or both? Yeah.
When I was early days DMing, before I sort of figured out what was going to be my style, and I was just like, I'm learning spells, right? I had done one of those like super easy like battle royale style things that I'd set up. And one of our clerics, the party's cleric, was going to like this heal spell, like the 7th level spell heal. Yeah. One of their party members who was at 0. And I remember I had somebody counterspell it, and they lost their minds. They were like, how absolutely dare you? That is so evil. And I was just like, I don't know, they have wouldn't they want to use counterspell on that? That's what they would do. They're bad guys. And they were like, yeah, but dude, Jesus Christ. That was I'll say that was a big learning moment as a DM, to be like, you can be mean, but not that mean.
In those moments, I always roll an intelligence check to be like, how smart is this guy acting in this moment? To be like, how switched on is they to be like, okay, this needs to stop.
That's super smart. That's super smart.
And then I go, well, I rolled.
Yeah,
it's not my fault.
Honestly, then it's up to the dice, and that's what it is.
Yeah,
right? That's great, because when you leave it to the dice, whatever, stuff happens. I think the coolest. This sort of, it's both as a DM and a player. So we were doing the world of everyone's DMing and doing and because players had started DMing, we were all like trying to test out our chops and see what we could do and all that. So me and 3 of my friends who were playing in that game were like, let's do a 24-hour one-shot session, essentially.
Oh my god.
And the conceit of it was every 4 hours or so, we would change who was DMing. We would like switch the DM mid-session. So we like built a world together that we were going to play the one-shot in. We knew all of the specifics, who the main bad guys were, what their stuff was, the big grand plans of this world. And then we like drew straws for like who would go first, second, third, fourth, and built a conceit that characters could easily come and go out of, right? So it was like we basically were doing like X-Men, where it was like we're at a school where everyone is like learning their new powers and stuff like that. And so for this mission, these people are going, and for this mission, these people are going. So it was easy enough to like explain why your character wasn't there when you were DMing it. But it was the craziest like thing I've ever done. Like, so we also did it that every time the DM switched, we leveled up. So we started at level 3 and ended at level 7, I think. And played, it wound up going, I think we did 20 hours total, 18 to 20 hours total. But like started at 7 a.m. and I think went to like 4 or 5 a.m. the next day. And it was one of those things where I'm like, if you want to try it, try it. It's insane. It's the coolest thing you'll ever, like, the storytelling all narratively fit together despite it being told from 4 different perspectives. There was things that people were paying off from other people's sessions, like in theirs. Because part of it was like between the switch, the next DM would have like 30 minutes to be like, okay, what happened in that session that I now need to work into mine? Like, what's changed about the world? And I went third. And so I was like pulling stuff from things that happened in the first 4 hours and things that happened in the next 4 hours, and like set up something for the last DM if he wanted to use that. It was like as an option there. And it was just like, I mean, truly the most intense, ridiculous, awesome play experience I've ever had, both as a DM and as a player. That I go, hey, if you want to do something stupid, go ahead. Like what a fun thing to try. And if you never want to do that with your life, you'll be completely fine. It is like, it's not one of those things where I'm like, you've gotta do it. But it was very, very, very fun.
Wow.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
That really
Wow.
that's
Just
amazing.
saying, man, it's worth trying.
Damn.
It was very fun. It was also, I picked an insane character. I was like, I wanted to do a 3-class multi-class starting at level 3. I was like, that's hilarious. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have subclasses in all of them. And the only way to do that is Sorcerer, Warlock, and Cleric to get 3 subclasses at level 1. So I made this character that was like a accomplice to like worker for believer in sort of like affiliate of death, who was this like, he had died, death had been like, you will pay off your debt to me, I'll send you back, you can work and pay off your debt, and that'll be how you like essentially like ultimately get to die and find peace. So I was a Death Domain Cleric, Undead Warlock, Shadow Sorcerer, starting at level 3. And it was so much fun. Just
so cool.
an insane, fun, silly romp of a time.
Oh, that's insane. And it works well because obviously Sorcerer and Warlock's charisma.
Perfect.
And all you just need is wisdom for clerics. That's actually insane. Wow.
And all I needed to pull from the cleric was like a couple healings, like spare the dying or a healing word if people went down. And besides that, I was just a charisma caster, and it was awesome.
Damn.
That's so much fun.
Yeah. That is really cool. That is really cool. We might have to do a 24-hour D&D session.
We might have to.
Let me know if you do it, because I'd love to hear the stories.
Oh,
It This might be a bit of a redundant question, but homebrew or module?
I lean homebrew. When I started doing DMing, I like based it on a module. I started doing a module that my players immediately were like, okay, I
No.
don't none of this. Like
Yeah,
it's the
that
module started
happens.
with every time. The module started with a like disruption in the town square where it's like these clearly thieves are going up against this town guard and you are supposed to side with the town guard. And my players were like, absolutely not. Here's what we're doing. One of them doesn't want to fight. They're leaving the town square entirely. They don't want to get involved. One of them uh, picked a fight with one of the town guards, immediately downed. One of them was like, hey, I want to be a rogue thiefy guy. Is there like a candy store that I can break into in this town? And I was like, nothing in the module says there's a candy store, but let's say yes. And he spent the entire session looting candy. And so I was like, this can't be this can't be all I do. We need to go beyond this or I'm going to lose my mind. So I like to steal stuff from modules. I like to do like, like a Candlekeep mystery in the world of a homebrew or something like that. I think
Yeah,
that's really cool.
I think that's the best.
But I think it's tough. I think it's tough to run like directly alongside a module.
I think we said this last week and fully agree. People
Yeah.
promote a module as a way for new DMs to get into D&D. Modules are hard to run.
I
They're
think so
tough.
too.
They're
Yeah,
really tough.
I
Because
really
you could
agree with
change
that.
something session one and you've screwed something up
Yeah.
10 sessions down the road and you're like, what do I do as a new DM? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, right,
Whereas if
exactly.
you've written it all, you've got it in your head, like, okay, scrap that, rewrite, done. Doesn't
Done.
matter.
Boom. The world is changing as I make it.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? Like they don't know. Yeah, exactly. I think it's I know homebrew is like more daunting because it is wholesale coming from your brain, but I do think that gives you the freedom to be like, hey, if mistakes happen, mistakes happen. And really there's no such thing as mistakes, right? It's like it
Yeah.
just becomes new rules or new things or new whatever. Yeah, fully agree with that assessment.
I think
Yeah.
with that as well, because your players will obviously help what you're doing. They'll be like, "Oh, is there this here?" And you can be like, "Yeah, you can go. Is there a stable here? Yeah, you can go to the stable. Go
Right.
have fun in the stables.
Yeah,
If you
cool.
want to go to the stables, you can just add it in immediately,
Yeah.
and I think that just makes it so much easier.
Wild. Absolutely
Yeah.
wild. Yeah, agree.
I think with homebrew as well, it's more like enjoyable and satisfying creating your world because like the module is done and you paid for it, it's cool. But like when you create your own world, like from scratch, like all the lore, the gods, just like the powers in the world and stuff, it's just so fun. You can do whatever
Yeah.
you want with it. Just go crazy.
I will say this of modules in terms of like new DMs starting out kind of a thing. Like I found a map, like a world map from a module that I was like I honored so hard. And like that just became the world that it was like a Faerun map or something like that where I was just like great. Like we're on the moon sea and I'm never leaving this location. Like here are built-in towns that I don't need to come up with names for.
Yeah,
Like here's how you get from one to the other, and that was huge because that's as like for me creatively that's where I'm like I can name NPCs, which I know is a thing that people are like, oh Jesus, but I can always come up with at least a basic name. Towns and geography and landscaping and all of that, I'm like, it's another town and it has the things you need in it. And beyond that, I'm like bad at figuring out different towns unless I have a map that can literally be like, this is like a larger city. This is a little like farm town. This is, that kind of stuff being there already. Awesome.
so speaking of homebrew,
Yeah.
we'll slide into our next segment of the common homebrew rules that people run that
Mm.
have become so common in people's games. They just think their base game. Hidden death saves is something that we personally do, and
We do.
I genuinely I think it does heighten the game to a point where it utilizes the cleric being like, okay, that person's down. I need to do something about it now because they might be one roll away from death.
Yeah. I think that's an awesome role to have. We ran it for a little bit at one of the tables that I was doing, and the first time someone who was down rolled a save and went, okay. Everyone around the table was like, "Oh no! Oh no! 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 Oh no!" And I think that is, I think that's really cool because there is that thing, right, of being like, they have 2 successes, we're fine, right? Like,
Yeah.
as a person who plays a lot of healers and support, I learned early, like, you only help when it's dire. Otherwise, you're better off like hitting a guy, at least in the rules as D&D is currently. But like, I do think that hidden death save just it makes an important situation feel important
Yeah.
instead of it just being like, oh yeah, but we all know what's going on with Joe. Like, Joe's fine, and I think that's I'm very pro. I'm very, very pro that.
Yeah.
But I do think that it is, for me, it is a hidden save from the player, not a hidden save from the DM.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know
Yeah.
I have played at tables where the DM rolled it behind the screen, and I was like, oh, I don't like that.
No,
I don't like that. I think that it's good for
trialed
the
that
player
for a
to know.
few sessions,
Yeah.
and then I didn't like it because I'm taking away their entire agency, and I was like,
Yeah.
I hate this. This feels bad.
Yeah.
You can just do it. Just whisper it to me. It's fine.
Right. And like, I completely understand the motivation of being like, nobody knows, but also like, yeah, you want the players to have the agency, and that feels less fun for me if they don't even know their own character's state.
Yeah, definitely. It adds to dynamic as well, because now at least the person knows if they have to re-roll a new character or not before.
Right, yeah, right,
right. Yeah. Like, they'll know before anyone else, and it's fine. They can do that. They can mentally get past it before the others have to. I mean, as a player, it is stressful. It is so stressful trying to keep a straight face when you've just rolled a natural one. No, I didn't. I couldn't.
No.
I rolled. I passed my first save, and then I rolled a natural one, and everyone saw me just go, yeah. I couldn't hide that I've just rolled horrendously. It was, I was just like, well, I'm going to die in a second, guys, please. Yeah,
you looked directly at the camera as well and kind of went,
In my brain, it was try and play this really normal, and then I saw the one, and I was like, "Fuck!" I was like, "Fuck!" And I just
It was our first session with cameras as well.
Oh my God!
Our very first session, seeing everyone's faces, and they just see my face lose all color. And it's just the thing is as well, it was a big fight. They were fighting something that I didn't know if they would kill it before I died. So I was like, okay, I could straight up lose my character here. Shit. And I was not ready.
Clay golem? I think it was a clay golem.
A clay golem. He absolutely bashed. I mean, it was insane as well. You were rolling really well for the hits. I had a 19 AC, and I got battered in about 2 turns. I got slumped. I was like, okay, yeah. Same happened to our paladin with a 19 AC, but he managed to get back up and then go down again. So he had like the less risk of death.
Right, he gets to reset that death save.
Yeah, I was just on the floor suffering. Yeah. No, it's a very fun rule.
I would say also, especially at like higher level play, very, very rarely will I, as a DM, like if I have a monster with multi-attack, will I be like, down, kill. That is like so, what an aggressive move to do, right? But I will go down, hit for 2 death saving fails, like, and then leave them there on 1 left. That I think is that gives me that same feeling at the table of going like, this is important. Like, we need to get to this dude. Which I think is always fun for players to have that feeling of like, oh no.
Yeah,
I'll be doing that soon, Alex.
Oh, nice.
Just throwing that out there. You've not thought anyone's smart enough yet to figure that out.
Yeah, I was going to say, it definitely depends, I think, on like the character intellect as well. Because if you're fighting,
do they know to do a double tap or not? Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. So, we have talked about this a few times before. I think we've forgotten recently, but paid DMing versus free
Oh
DMing.
yes.
Pros and cons for both sides. What are your thoughts on paid versus
Oh
free?
man, listen. As a person who enjoys money, I enjoy money, you know. But then also, I think that there is a looseness that comes with it being fun and free and like exchange of goods in that way.
Yeah.
I think that like it's tough as a creative to be like, don't pay your creatives, because there
Yeah.
is so much work that the DM does behind the screen before they ever get to the table, that like you're not even paying them necessarily for the game, you're paying them for the accumulated time that
Yeah.
you don't really see, right?
Yeah.
So like in terms of give the people doing that their due, yes, I think paid DMing is like a good thing for giving back to the people who are doing the work. As a DM, I've done both, and I think that there is a freedom in the DM style to be like, hey, genuinely the cost of this is much lower. Like if things go wrong, whatever, right? Like I think both with like streamed games and with paid game, there's some element of like, I need to keep this pretty hard on the rails, because there's an experience that people are
Yeah.
like actively consuming in a more like, I want something out of this way, instead of just like, hey, we're all playing around a table.
Yeah. Yeah.
um you know, so it's like it's a tough line to walk, where I'm like, hey, I wish that it was the freedom of unpaid DMing for the proper, I mean, nothing crazy or exorbitant, but like for the proper amount of pay for a DM. And I'm talking about this in a very sort of like, not a home game with your friends, but if you're doing like a, hey, someone has sought you out as a DM and you are like being paid to go run a table somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
I think that that's like a worthy thing to be recompensed for, compensated for. Um, and hopefully the people who are doing it honestly are good enough at what they do to make it feel like it is an unpaid experience, you know, like to have all of that sort of like
Yeah.
joy and looseness and whatever that comes with that home game feel.
Yeah.
That's a very good answer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, we shared similar thoughts. I mean, the thing we don't like about paid DMing is when it's like online and someone new to Dungeons and Dragons has posted like, anyone DMing, and then someone goes, "Oh yeah, I'm DMing, pay me." Like,
Right.
you know, yeah, we're not a fan of that. But
No, and I
yeah,
agree, and I think that that's tough, right? Because like if it is a way that you're like trying to really make a like, hey, I have a skill in the same way that I have like, you know, uh it would be, it's
I can
close
sing
to,
kind
but
of thing.
yeah, right. Or even like for me, I have buddies who are like visual artists who like draw tokens for characters and stuff like that. And the assumption there is like, yeah, you pay for that. Like they are taking time and craft
Yeah.
to make a thing and give you a product. And like it's true of the DMs as well. It just is a little bit different because there is a joy in the act
yeah,
for the DM too. You know, it's like, so it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
tricky little
It's a yeah.
yeah. It's like
mishmash.
it's still the game for the DM, but it's the game they created. So like, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Right. And I think that there is something to this community. Like what I've found of the D&D community in the time that I've been a part of it is like, people are very generous with their time generally. Like
Yeah.
more often than not, people will be like, hey, you're new to this, like, yeah, I got you, let's play a session, easy. um but I've also seen the other side of that, of where it's like, hey, my time is limited, and I also like, this is what I do professionally, I DM professionally, right? So then I do need to be compensated in the way that you would compensate anyone else. If someone was making, singing is like a great version of that, right? um so I think like, if someone uh, here's my like final, if someone asks to be paid, uh don't like question the reason, like, sure, Like there's probably a reason that they either they feel a certain way about their service and that they should be compensated for what they're doing, or they're taking the time to do a thing that they feel passionately about and think that they should be getting monetary value for that. And then decide on your own whether you think that the price is worth the product, right? Like if you find a DM who you love and you're playing games like you've never played before and you go, this is the coolest thing I've ever done, I'll shell out however many bucks a week to do this. Great. If you
Yeah.
play one session with someone and you go, that's the price that they're charging for this very kind of whatever game that I think I could do with my friends better,
Yeah.
just don't play with that. You know, like don't play with them. And it's that easy. There's enough people doing it and trying these days that it's like find what works for you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very good answer.
Yeah.
Also, like on the topic of questions we haven't asked in a while, we asked once about American culture for D&D compared to English
Oh, we
culture.
did. I remember that now.
Yeah, because I think there's
Yeah.
quite a big difference. So, what is it like to actually play D&D in America? Like, openly make content for it, talk to
Man,
people about it.
it's a great question. And it's tough because I don't have the other side of the perspective. Like it would be easier to answer
That's
if I
true.
knew what the UK culture is, right?
Yeah,
I guess PAX Unplugged is a good example. Like stuff like that,
Yeah.
conventions kind of thing, don't really have the draw of the sort of the D&D community. I guess
Yeah.
in a very like we're getting the I think Critical Role have done tours here.
Sure.
Dimension 20 are doing one here soon.
Cool.
And they're the only two big podcasts that I can think of, like and NADPod. NADPod have done one as well
Uh-huh.
that
Uh-huh.
I can think of that have been in the UK or sort of this side.
yeah. I think
Um,
in the UK mostly as well is for like conventions and stuff. I think there are small conventions and whatever, but a lot of the time it will be there'll be a D&D section of conventions for like Comic Con like type
Right.
conventions
Got
or
you.
an
Got you.
anime
Got you. Yeah. Yeah.
convention.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
Okay.
just all
I mean,
like related.
yeah, I think in that regard, then like the UK, the US is more like gluttonous with their consumption as we are in so many things. Like I think that there is it is very easy to like oversaturate the market in terms of US consumption. Like you look for you if you're like googling a D&D podcast, like you'll throw a stone and
yeah,
find a million, you know, like
Yeah,
and so it's and especially in the US, I think like it's really the stuff that sort of rises above does so because it is so quality. It is people like really making stuff at their highest level and or are so entertaining or charming as people. uh Either the product is so good or the people are so good, right? I think that like that is sort of true, at least in my experience of it, that is true of D&D throughout the US, is like the people who the names that you know in the community are the people who are either so charismatic and kind and like good people that they have naturally sort of like charismaed their way up to the position that they're in, uh, or they are making a product that is undeniable. You know, like it is something that is come into the zeitgeist because you go, well, that's great. That's great if I know D&D. That's great if I don't know D&D. Like it's still a consumable thing. Um, and I think that that has been like because I am less in the sort of world of conventions and cosplay and all that. Like I super appreciate it for what it is. It's just never really been my
yeah,
work. Like
yeah, yeah,
I think coming into D&D during the pandemic when none of that was happening, like I didn't naturally find my way into that world. Um so I can't speak to what that kind of an experience is as much. What I can say is that like I've done a handful of projects with different people and different whatevers. And for the most part, like there is a true aspect of like love of the game. Like people are doing what they're doing because they love doing it. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that so far in my experience has been pretty like resounding. Like that seems to be pretty all encompassing for the experience I've had so far. But that being said, there's so much. It's so saturated. The market is so saturated.
It very much is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
And it's so fun, like something, and especially with like Baldur's Gate 3 coming out now, and sort of
Yeah.
like tying in like this video game market with the D&D and like the marriage of all that stuff. Like I know there's like YouTube content creators who have been like, well, I can mix Baldur's Gate 3 into what I'm doing, no problem. Like that is such an easy crossover
Yeah.
to like find bigger audiences.
Yeah.
That it's like
We've had a
easy.
conversation about it and been like,
Yeah, really?
could we do this and just throw it out there?
Yeah. I had a lot of people, because I do those like character builds on my TikTok stuff, and I had a lot of people in Baldur's Gate hit being like, do them for Baldur's Gate 3, like just do the exact same
Yeah.
thing. And it's like, yeah, there's a very compelling reason to do, like plenty of reason to do so. For me, it was like, I'm just such I was like, I hadn't played it yet and didn't want to be giving bad advice. Like I was like, I don't know the mechanics of Baldur's 3. I can't tell you shit. I don't want to be putting out content that's like, here's how you play a thief, and not knowing what the hell I was talking about. So that was why I avoided it mostly. But yeah, I would be really intrigued to like sort of experience the zeitgeist or whatever from in a different, in UK, in England, or wherever. I mean, I feel like that has to be, England has to be like the second highest market, right? Like if US is the
Yeah.
number one,
So
how far down that chain do we go before it's like, who's playing D&D in Finland? Like where do we go?
Yeah.
Where does
we
that
had
end?
we had a our fourth episode was a Finnish TikTok creator.
You're kidding me that I pulled
No,
that
yeah,
out of
it's not even a
nowhere.
joke. Genuinely, our fourth,
Seriously, yeah.
our second
That's
guest
so
ever.
funny.
Yeah, a Finnish TikTok
Yeah.
creator
Oh,
for
I
D&D
love that.
content.
Well,
Really
you know
cool.
what? Good for them. I mean,
Yeah.
straight
But,
up, that's awesome.
Yeah, but to sort of speak on your question before, so I've recently I'm doing my postgraduate degree now, got back to university, so I joined in January, so halfway between sort of academic year.
Mhm.
So I was in one academic year. I'm doing the second part, the second academic year now.
Got you.
But went to Roleplay Society in the first one. There were two games going on with a sort of a rolling rota, and there was maybe 20 people.
Yeah.
So I was expecting the same return coming
Right.
back this year.
Right.
Walked into a room with one of the person who didn't know the way. A new student, I'll show you. We're going here. Opened a door, looked around, and went, "There's 30 people in this room, none of whom I recognize.
Uh-huh.
Am I in the wrong place?" Turned
Yeah.
and was like, "No, that's the committee who are like running the society." Sat down. 200 people showed up, and everyone was
Wow.
like, "Oh my god! Like,
Wow.
where are all these people coming from? Like, how's it happened?" But yeah, it like exploded in like 1 year.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I do think
Baldur's
there's
Gate
been like
was a huge thing of
a
being
part
like,
of that.
yeah,
I do think there has been a burst, like just in the popularity of like role playing, like TTRPG in general recently. I think part of that is like the success of Critical Role and the Critical Role TV show stuff, like all of their animated series and all that,
Yeah.
and like I think that's part of it. But I think that a lot of people did what I did, which was like they needed something to pass the time, and like it not that it hit at the right time, because it's obviously D&D has been around for like 40 years at this, but like that it found an audience again and has had this really nice wave that it's just ridden for the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
100%. I mean, the way when I started was also, it was a year and a half ago, so it's just after COVID. I mean, I already knew about D&D. I was gonna play it at some point in my life. It just happened to be after COVID. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, when I started, I didn't actually find a game in the UK at all
Wow.
for a little bit. I mean, I joined the online groups, but I think for like a month, and it's still like that in the Facebook group chat for D&D UK. Is people don't tend to post games they run; they tend to post searching for games. So I was like, okay, I could make a post, and then I found someone made a post. I was like, cool, let's join them, and it was an American game. Which really confused me when I joined for the first time and everyone was American. I was like, you posted in the UK group chat, but okay.
False advertising, interesting.
I was like, okay, cool, I'll still play. I mean, I've got nothing better to do.
Right.
But it was very small for a while. I mean, I know people still hadn't even heard of it until I started playing. So,
Wow.
yeah, but I'm happy it's blown up because it's very enjoyable. Yeah, 100%.
It's very fun. It's that thing I talk about this all the time with my wife, who like does not care about any TTRPG at all. She's like, she has a full life outside of this and whatever. But it's really funny because there's like the pillars of the D&D TTRPG world, right? Like the Matt Mercers and the Brendan Lee Mulligans and stuff. Where like in this community, they're like the cream of the crop, right? Like the coolest dudes in the world. Yeah, there you go. Right.
Yeah,
and you take like one single step backwards, and people are like, "Who?" I mean, like straight up, like you one step to go, like, "Oh, I've never heard of this person in my life." They run a what? Okay, cool, man. Like, cool. But I think that's kind of the beauty of small communities like that. Is being able to sort of have these like, hey, it doesn't matter if I can walk down the street and be invisible, but if you go to the right place and you just like have your people there, it's like, hell yeah, we're speaking the same language, we know what we're talking about. Like, very cool. It's a very cool thing.
Yeah. The thing with Matt Mercer as well is he could be like, have you watched anything animated like
in
the last decade?
I mean, he's
probably in that.
That is very
and you're like,
true.
oh, that guy, you know who that guy is, and you're like, he's like massive.
You see your favorite TV show? Yeah, that's Matt Mercer. He voice acted in that. Yeah.
He is also I was on a web series with Matt Mercer recently.
Oh wow.
Yeah, through completely different channels, not D&D at all. Friends of mine who I do like comedy stuff with in LA had also worked with Matt in the past, and they wound up casting us in the same web series called Headless. It's all on YouTube. He's great in it. It's so much fun. And I like met him on set. He is like so obnoxiously the kindest person in the world. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you don't also have to be this nice. Like, you got enough stuff, my man. Like, you're good. He such a genuinely sweet, open-hearted person. And like, this was a cast and crew of people being like, hey, I love your stuff. Like, you're like, I play D&D. And with every single person, he was like, hey, that's awesome. Like, I love that you're part of the community. That's great. And then was so funny as well. Like, it was a comedy series and he was fucking hilarious. And I'm like, you can't have all of these things, man. Like,
where's the problem?
Good, leave something for the rest of us, dude. But yeah, a really like kind person, which is awesome, really awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, so
now let's go from talking about how nice Matt Mercer is to a horror story.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Straight to the horror story. So this one's actually relates to kind of paid DMing, believe it or not. At least from the title. The title is Problematic DM forces player to pay hundreds of euros to play / not get assaulted. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I know.
Header.
So I believe this is from the player's perspective, because if the DM is writing himself, I'd be very surprised.
I charge hundreds of euros.
Yeah. So, let's start. So for a little context, me and 4 of my friends started playing D&D. For 3 of us, it was our first time, and the DM claims to have played for 3 years beforehand. We started off running normal LMOP, and things were going fine. It was an elf wizard cleric. There was a half elf paladin, half orc barbarian, who later became a Tiefling Warlock as his second character, and one other problematic player that was kicked for other reasons, who I can't
I'm
remember
glad
the
it was
details for.
as a second player, because in my brain I was like, what spell happened to that guy in the middle of that campaign?
Yeah.
Cool.
Second character, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Weird glyph of warning. Yeah, right, good.
Looking back on it, the first red flag was when the first thing our DM said to us was, "I take bribes." Interesting.
Oh boy.
Oh,
That
boy.
honestly, if I heard that, even if I was a first-time player, I would have left.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is wow. Due to it all being our first time ever playing D&D role-playing or even making characters, they were all a bit bland, so nothing was brought up for a while. The campaign went smoothly and transitioned into a homebrewed rise of Tiamat as she had already been defeated in this universe. Cool. The first problem arose when the half-orc barbarian was in a fight and failed his death saves. In any other campaign, this would mean he would make a new character and move on. However, the player was very connected to his character as it was his first one. This led to him begging the DM for a second chance, to which the DM responded, saying he would pay €10 to bring his character back. Ooh. Ooh. The player, thinking it would be a one-time thing and not being great with money, said yes and paid for it. After this, more offers were made for gold or loot to him. Other players were offered it too, but they were not offered as often as to the half-orc. Wow. Okay. After the DM realised that the half-orc was going to continue to pay for second chances, which he called mercies, so that that's what we're going to call it now. I noticed he started getting targeted in combat and getting robbed of loot and gold. This ended up creating a big power gap between me and the paladin compared to the half-orc. Our DM kept raising both the prices and the loot offer values to the half-orc until he offered 2 items for $200 each. To sweeten the deal, DM made half-orc think he was getting a much better deal than he did. Soon, after the half-orc brought about $500 worth of loot and mercies, which ever so generous DM only made him pay $400 for, the half-orc was killed for the 100th time. But this time there were no remains, and suddenly you could only buy mercies if there were remains. Wow. There were many other incidents of DM pulling homebrewed rules out of his very wide anal cavities, but I don't remember enough examples for this post. I thought this was the end of the bribery and DM became the better person and put a stop to this, but I was very wrong. Due to the player's now intensified connection to his half-orc character from the amount of money he spent on him, DM convinced him to pay €400 for all of his loot to transfer to his next character. I thought I should note the way I'm wording this is very mild. DM basically killed half-orc every session, and it got to the point where he forced him to pay, and when the or said he wouldn't, he was threatened with being kicked. After a while of this happening, Half-Orc decided, with the encouragement from me and Paladin, to quit and stop paying the DM the financial debt that had built up to €700 at this point. When he said this to DM, he was threatened to be jumped. In real life? Wow! By a completely real drug dealer that owes the DM a favour. We found out he wasn't real after a while, but that at the time it was a serious threat. This DM had many more problems, but this post is getting too long, so I'm going to link another post with stuff in the comments. Wow! Wow! That is horrific.
my God.
That might be the worst one we've had to date.
That's absolutely the worst one we've had.
Wow.
There's obviously like no two sides to this argument, right? Like there's no redeeming qualities anywhere in the story of the DM side.
No.
Like, what a awful person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
turning D&D into microtransactions is just horrific.
yeah.
Let's like put aside for a second the fact that that was pure extortion to the like degree of like mob. The if you're a DM and the player at your table's character dies and they go, please, I'm so connected to this character, I have so much more I
Absolutely.
want to do with
Yeah,
them,
100%.
you find a way in the game to bring them back. You make it a quest, you do a thing, there's a way that, right? Like, if you don't want to be like, if death is death for you and you don't want to just be like, hey, roll again, which like maybe do that, but if you want it to be a real stakes thing, like talk to the player and be like, listen, I want to get your character back too. Let's let's get the rest of the party involved. Let's make it a thing for this game.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting, right? The idea of being like, hey, dude, pay me $50 and he's back in action is so fucking insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Wow.
And that being their first experience as well is just
Yeah.
that's
Brutal.
just so upsetting.
Yeah, that
It's
is
absolutely a thing of if your player is going, hey, it's my first time, I really don't want this to happen. It's like, okay, it's got to be a conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
you can't just be like, nah.
now
Right.
to switch the
And,
side.
like, right, equally bad,
So,
not
yeah.
equally bad because this guy charged him $700, but
Yeah.
equally bad would be a player being like, please, I love this character, and a DM being like, nope, peace. Like,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
also
yeah.
not a great DM. Like,
No.
find
Yeah.
the way to make people have fun
Yeah.
at the table. It's a game.
Definitely, but to like switch the side, not to the DM side because I'd be insane to be on his side. To the other players, I feel like after it took them €700 worth of money
Yeah.
before they told
Yeah.
the other player to leave. Now, I can get it's their first time, but surely after like €50, I would have told him to leave. Even after the first €10 to pay for the character, I would have told him to leave. I get it's their
Yeah.
first time, but it is a job of players to, if you have a crappy DM, to A,
out.
leave, and B,
Yeah.
tell the other players to get out. Because they waited €700 worth.
Yeah.
That's an insane amount of money. Like, it's ridiculous.
At the beginning, they said myself and 3 friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
It was me
what-
and 4, and 3 of us was our first time. So someone had played before. And they...
Oh, so the DM wasn't their friend. Okay, that makes
No,
sense. I thought for
I
some
think-
reason that
I didn't know if the DM
yeah.
was a friend from before or not.
The DM
Yeah.
wasn't a friend, and 3 of them
Right,
were new
okay.
players, and one of them was experienced. So I'm going to stick it on the experienced player there. They've played before.
Absolutely, 100%.
They must know it's not a normal thing to pay off a DM to get things.
Yeah. I mean, I think even if you hadn't played before, like, it's the
Yeah.
equivalent of like having a standing game night of anything, right? If you like Monopoly, right? And you're like, hey, give me this property and I'll give you in real life $20. That's like, what? We're
Yeah.
already crossed the line
Yeah.
there. Like, it can't be that important. And I
Yeah.
understand the stakes. Like, there is something to like, you love your characters that you build. You really do want, like, you invest in them. But not financially, my gang. Like, you gotta,
Yeah.
gotta be a line there.
The only financial investment into my character is that Hero Forge model, so I can import it into Tailspire.
And that is
That's
worth
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is worth it.
Wow.
I think that's what I think really is the beauty of D&D. You literally just need a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got their phones nowadays. You can find dice rolling apps online. You don't need to buy dice if you really don't want to. You just need a pen and paper, and that is it. And that's the best. That's what's great about it.
Genuinely, yeah.
But you need dice. Everyone needs dice.
Yeah.
Of course
like
you need it.
19
You'd be a
sets of
fool
dice.
not to use dice.
Yeah, exactly.
My brother started playing recently, and he was like rolling everything on D&D Beyond, and I was like, dude, I'm buying you a pair of I'm just gonna get you at least one set of dice so that you know the feeling of the click clack click clack.
Yeah.
How many dice do you now own?
I haven't gone off the deep end on dice, and I'm happy to say that, but I do have a new set of dice for every character I play. 100%. Every character gets their own set of dice.
Yeah.
So I mean, I gotta have 12 to 15 sets at this point. I mean, like, at least 12 to 15.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 2 sets, but I preemptively bought a set for being a DM. So
yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I have my DM set of dice.
Nice.
So I run a session on Friday, and we were with a new player on Friday, and they had bought a hollow metal dice.
Oh man.
And they were rolling it, and another player went, "Are they? Can I just?" And they had one roll and was like, "I'm buying hollow metal dice." At the table, bought a hollow metal dice while we were playing. They're like, "I've done it."
The allure of that was so strong that
Yeah.
they had to be like,
The
listen, I
sound
get
was
it.
incredible, though. It was so good.
Damn. Yeah.
So fun.
Wow. I mean, I'm still trying to recover from the horror story. I hope that player
Yes,
I hope after that they sought financial advisors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
They mentioned
new
paying off a
friends.
debt, though, right? I think so. They
yeah,
didn't have
yeah.
upfront paid the 700, and were
It
like
was
paying it off in installments,
it was a
which
D&D
is
loan.
somehow worse.
Yeah, it was a D&D
Oh,
loan.
wacky.
Yeah, wow.
That's really bad. That's without doubt our worst horror story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt in my mind. And I clicked the link they said they had in the comments. It is another horror story I saved. We won't do it now because it's a long one. But
Yeah.
the title is DM tries to balance game with homophobia. So, like, instantly, this DM must be the worst person ever. There's no way that's the title of the other story. This is
Yeah,
Jesus
horrendous.
Christ.
Like, it's
I don't
absolutely
particularly want to
horrendous.
read that one.
Yeah.
It feels like why give it any merit at all? You know, like
Yeah. Why even
Yeah,
post
not
about it?
yeah.
It's yeah. And just going through the comments of this post here, not the homophobia one, the one we read. Um, it sounds like it just gets worse the more that the original poster explains it. They were apparently banned from looking anything about D&D up on the internet. Um, how does one ban that from happening?
right?
And
Yeah,
like, he's not going to be in your house cutting off your internet. Like, I would
Yeah.
instantly go home if a DM told me that. I would go home and search up D&D and then straight
Yeah.
away. Like, clearly there's a
Yeah, dude.
reason. Yeah,
I'm stretching my mind to try and find them, like maybe metagaming, but like you do that at the table, and then I don't care what you do in your own time.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Mm,
and I'm like, what? Why?
Yeah.
yeah,
It feels inexcusable on the DM.
Yeah, it really does.
yeah. Wow, a lot of the comments are just tell the police. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's extortion.
yeah,
It just is.
Like straight up. It's
yeah.
mild stakes, but extortion.
Extortion, and he threatened assault. Like, he straight up said
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
it might have been a lie, but he threatened it. So yeah,
It's still a crime.
yeah, it's still a
Yeah.
crime. Yeah, wow, that is absolutely insane. God, cool. So
We're just talking about how nice the community is as well.
yeah.
I know,
The
right?
comments
Seriously,
are
to have
terrible.
that be on the heels of yeah, let me change my previous comment about paying your DMs. Yeah, don't let them extort you.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
think that I had to bake that into the
You
answer, but man.
Yeah, I mean, if a DM's asking for like more than like triple digits and more, a obviously don't do it. B, if you consider
Yeah.
it, seek financial advice. Is my
Yeah.
because yeah, that's insane. Wow.
The one contingency I'll place on that is I saw an ad a few months ago for D&D in a castle, and it looked insane.
I
See,
did also
I,
see
It
that.
I
looked
get
crazy,
that. I
and I was
get
like,
that.
"Oh, I'm tempted."
If you're paying to rent a castle to do D&D, I understand that fully.
Yeah,
But that's more right. That's like for the experience of going
that's
to
a
the
full
castle and having.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Oh God. Um.
Wild.
Yeah, that is wow. So yeah, I think that's
yeah.
I think that's
Thank you very
everything.
much for coming on, and joining
Yeah.
us for
My
a wonderful
pleasure.
chat.
Fuck that, dude. But other than
Yeah.
that, this has been lovely. Like that guy sucks, but you guys are great. You know, so
Thanks.
this has been
Yeah. Oh, this was
really fun.
yeah, this was a great episode. Thank you for coming on. Is there last question? Is there any
Yeah.
other content creators, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, whatever, that you'd like to shout out on the podcast?
Oh man, I mean, I've had a couple of them that I've already sort of mentioned,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Hero Club, George Primavera, and Hero Club, and all the guys who do that are just top notch. They tell really cool stories, and do it in a way that is like if you've never listened to D&D, like don't know D&D content at all, I think you can still enjoy it, which is great. And then if you know D&D, you get that extra little bump of like I know what an insight check is. So that those guys are awesome, and making some really cool stuff. They also do a Twitch stream every week on Tuesday nights, also under Hero_Club on Twitch. You can check those guys out. I was on their Twitch channel for we did like a 2-year campaign in one of their worlds that they had built for one of the podcast seasons.
Nice.
They turned it into a campaign, which was very fun. It was like a Redwall style,
I
all
love
people are
Redwall.
animals, but it was like a high seas pirates campaign
that's so
within
cool.
I
that
love
world.
pirate campaigns. Yeah.
Very fun, very cool. I was a chameleon circle of stars druid, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had. Just a blast and a half. Those guys are great. There's a handful of people who don't need me to shout them out because they're already so talented and doing their thing. But I've had really lovely personal interactions with Jenny D is a buddy of mine who is fantastic. Follow her content if you don't already. I'm trying to think who else doesn't need me to advertise them. It's all these people who are just like at the top of their game. Gabe Hicks, if you don't follow Gabe Hicks and the stuff that he does, he is like a game designer as well as an incredible DM and player, and the stuff that he and also makes some great thirst traps on TikTok. What's up, Gabe? And he's a buddy of mine who I deeply adore. And sort of along those lines, Christina Ariel is another good friend of mine who is a wonderful across nerd space creator, Star Wars and D&D and all, just like a big proponent of being awesome and nerdy and great.
Yeah, that's the best.
Definitely
Yeah.
check out all of those people. If you haven't yet, they're amazing humans and creators, and hell yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. To our listeners as well, check out Gabe if you haven't watched him on TikTok yet.
Oh yeah, and my shit, but whatever. Listen,
Yeah.
if you like D&D mechanical stuff and or learning more about monsters, check out what I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're on all the platforms. Iwan, you know, you can list them.
Yeah, Spotify, Amazon, Google. There's another one.
Apple. Yeah, that's the one. Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everywhere you can get a podcast, it's probably there somewhere. If you just Google it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching. We will be back next week with another guest.
Yes.
And then after that, it'll be me and Alex for one final episode. One final episode? One more episode. I don't know why I said
but
not ending.
Last episode of the year is
coming
is
all the way
something.
down the home stretch as we wrap up. Thank you for letting me be your second to last guest ever. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching, and
Cool.
we'll see you next week.
See everyone later.